Hello everyone, this is Tiffany Connor. I'm your library liaison with LMU. My office is actually located at the Cedar Bluff campus, so I won't be coming up to Kingsport very often. In lieu of that, I wanted to record this presentation so that you know how to search the databases for material to meet the needs of your assignments. As this slide shows, you feel free to email me at any time, and I usually respond to email very quickly. The rest of this presentation, I'll go over how to search in PubMed and CINAHL to find the materials that you need. At the end, I have some links to APA tutorials. If you ever need assistance with APA, again, feel free to email me. I get a lot of questions about APA, so I'm used to those. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk about two databases in particular. At this level of your education, you really should be searching PubMed as your primary database, but sometimes PubMed is, well, it's very difficult to search sometimes, and there's often material that appears in journals that are not indexed within PubMed. Now, you may be able to find PubMed online. It's an open public access database, but you do want to go to the library and log in. And the reason is, if you're logged in, it'll show you the full text of the articles. Now, not everything that we have is full text. If something that you need is not actually available immediately in front of you, you can always request an interlibrary loan, and that article will be shipped to you, or usually it's emailed to you, and that service is free. A really good tool to use to build your search parameters is called the PICO method, and that stands for the population or problem you're interested in studying, the intervention that you're planning to use or look for. You need a comparison or control group. Sometimes that's simply no action at all. And then you want to look at what is your projected outcome. This is built from your research questions. Sometimes when you're trying to do the PICO method, you can do that easier than you can write the question. So they play off of one another. I've created a question today for an example, and we'll use this throughout the entire presentation. The question we're interested in looking at is, are service dogs an effective treatment for people with autism? Putting that into the PICO method, our population is people with autism, our intervention is the service dogs, our control group is no service dog, and our outcome that we're interested in is that autism anxiety has been managed. Now that we know what we're looking for, we just have to decide where to look. And as I mentioned, we're going to talk about two databases today. In the library world, we use the term database for a lot of things, and that's confusing to some people. So let me try and explain that real quick. The first one, the database we're actually searching is Medline, but the platform, what you see, is PubMed. And if you Google something, Medline or PubMed, you'll pretty much get to the same place. The other database we're going to talk about is CINAHL, and the platform for that is EBSCO. Now, EBSCO is a company that provides the interface. So if you get to CINAHL through a different company, say ProQuest, what you're looking at on screen is going to be different than the EBSCO version. So that's just a little bit of information about databases and the platforms you see them on. We're going to use search strategies of controlled vocabulary, keywords, phrases. There's also truncation, and I'll talk about search fields a little bit. We're not going to use truncation today, but you may hear about that term at some point. Now I'll mention a couple of differences between Medline and CINAHL. Medline, as you see on the slide, contains over 22 million citations, and it's a really big database, covers all of the biomedical fields, and it's a really great place to start, but there is just a ton of information. Now, if you are ever involved in a clinical trial, or you're aware of them, anybody who gets federal funding for such things, any kind of research like that, has to put their findings into PubMed and Medline. CINAHL stands for the Comprehensive Index for Nursing and Allied Health Literature. That's where the acronym comes from. And it contains records for hundreds of nursing and allied health journals. So you've got hundreds of journals versus millions of citations, but a citation is to an individual article. So within those hundreds of journals in CINAHL, there may be millions of citations as well. CINAHL's material dates back to 1937, not that you all will necessarily need that information that far back. But CINAHL is very comprehensive and has a lot of material available to students, especially the newer materials. You'll find more of them in full text. I mentioned some terms: controlled vocabulary, keywords, phrases, truncation, and search fields. But what in the world do those mean? If you don't avidly or actively use a research database, you may not be familiar with these terms. On the slide, I've got the definitions. Controlled vocabulary is basically just a list of terms that people who index the articles assign to each article. So indexing is you read the article and you assign subject terms to it, for example. Keywords are words that you can use that are not subject terms, so they're not in that controlled vocabulary. If you're used to searching Google, for example, you're doing a keyword search. You just type something in and you hit go. In databases, the one thing you want to be aware of is you cannot type in a sentence or a question. The database cannot understand punctuation, or if you have a lot of words in there, it won't understand it. Databases operate on a very basic method of searching. You need to put in just the words that you're interested in. Back to our question about the service dogs and autism. You would pick out keywords from that question and type it into the database. Then the database will give you some information. The next tool is phrases. You can do this in Google as well. If you put quotation marks around phrases, like you have service dogs, there's two words, you want that as a phrase. If you put quotation marks around that, the database will know to search those two words side by side in that order. And again, you can do that same trick in Google to refine your searches. Truncation, I mentioned we're not going to look at today, but I want to tell you what it is. It's basically when you cut off part of the word and you use a symbol in its place. This is most often done when you're looking for alternative endings to a word. So you would have the root word and then you put an asterisk beside it, and the database will look for all the different endings for that root word. There are search fields, and you're going to see some codes in these screenshots in a little bit. There's MESH is one of the codes you'll see, and another code from CINAHL is MH, that stands for major heading. You can search within different fields, like for the author or the title or the subject fields. There's a lot of them in different databases. But what we're going to do when we're searching the controlled vocabulary, we're automatically talking about a search field. I'll go over that a little bit more as we get into the example slides. Hopefully that'll make more sense. So in order to search these databases, you need to know where to find them. This is the front page of the library. You can access this in two ways. One, from the LMU homepage. If you go to the homepage and on the left-hand side you click on Academics, then you'll see Library in the next list. Alternatively, if you go through Pathway, on the upper left-hand side there are some menu items. Again, Library is under the tab Academics. You'll just see the link. Unfortunately, when you get to the link in Pathway, there are several other links, and the one you want to click on is simply stated the library website. I think it's the second link. So once you're into the library website, this is what you see. Notice right in the middle you have a huge button called Databases, so that's where we're headed. That red arrow is pointing to a tab that goes to the Read Health Sciences Library. Now that's specifically for medical and nursing materials. On the web, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of difference. If you click on the Read Health Sciences Library, there's a different place you would select the databases from. So you can go in this way, the Carnegie Vincent Library website, and just click on Databases. Or I'll show you in the next slide the Read Health Sciences way. Here's the front page of the Read Health Sciences Library. Notice the red circle on the left-hand side. Databases is linked there. When you click Databases from here, you're going to get into the exact same list that you would if you came in through the Carnegie Vincent Library. So don't think when you click on a link in here and you're going into a different library that you've gone off track. We're in the same building and we share resources. This particular website is going through an upgrade. I'm not entirely sure when the changes might take effect, but I just want you to be aware that what you see right now is going to be modified as we get it reconfigured, redesigned. Once you click on one of the database links, you will land on this page, which is a list of databases. The first thing you see is by subject, so you want to go search for nursing, and then once you find nursing, you'll get another list. This is the list you will get once you've clicked on your subject. These are databases that have been identified as having material for each subject. In our case, we're looking at the nursing databases. This is just an alphabetical list. It has links to the databases and relatively short descriptions of what you'll find there. In our case, we're going to talk about two of them, CINAHL and then PubMed. So we'll just scroll down to find the database you need. Once you click on the database that you need, you will have to sign in. This is simply your LMU email, the first part, your first name and last name, and your password associated with your email address. Once you log in, you will have access to all of the databases. If you log in once and you look at different databases, you will not be asked to log in a second time or a third time. But anytime you log out or close your browser window, when you go back in, you will have to log in again. Alright, we're going to start with PubMed. This is the front page. As you can see, it's relatively simple. The search box is at the top. You can simply type in a word and hit search, and I guarantee you will get information. Below the pictures, make note that they do have tutorials on here. They are sometimes long, some of them are really short. But if you want some advanced information on how to search PubMed very effectively, these tutorials are wonderful. I have watched them several times myself, and I learn something new every time. There is also a PubMed mobile if you are a person who likes to use your smartphone for doing research. On the right-hand side, there's a link to the mesh database. We will be looking for mesh terms. You can start there, or you can simply type in a word and hit go, which is what I'm going to do on the next slide. Here's a screenshot of the results from a keyword search. It has a keyword and a phrase in it. Notice the quotation marks around service dog. That's the phrase. So I just typed in autism and service dog. Now the and is capitalized because it's a Boolean operator. There are 3 of those that you can use in any database. You can also use it in Google. Basically, when you use and in between 2 words or phrases, it means that both of those have to be in every single result you get. If you use or, what you're telling the database is you want results that have either of the terms or both of the terms in each citation. There's also the Boolean operator not, and you want to use this one with caution. Earlier today I was looking up catheters, and there were 2 types that kept coming up, vascular and urinary. Well, I was only interested in the urinary catheters. When I noticed that the results had both in there, I simply put not vascular, and that removed those results from the list. So you want to use not only after you have looked at a results list and see what is coming up. Just as a tip for Google searching, you would use the symbol, the minus symbol, instead of the word not. So looking at the results list, I don't know if you can see the number, but it's only 6. I would assume that there would be more documentation on our topic. So in this case, I've just done a keyword search and it's really not giving me a lot of information. So I'm going to go to the mesh terms. Again, that's the controlled vocabulary. And I'm going to type in each of my keywords and see what the database suggests that I use to get better results. One thing I always recommend to students when they're looking for information is go through the initial list that you receive. And if you're in a Google search, go through at least the first page. If there's something that interests you, open that up and look at the subject terms. So I found one out of my 6 results that I thought would be interesting, and I based this simply on the title. It says, quote, "Stay, give me your paw, the benefits of family-centered care." That was interesting to me, so I clicked on the title and I got this little record that you see. This includes the abstract and the author information. What I've circled in red there, that's the publication types and mesh terms. If you click on that, it will expand that section. I utilize this a lot just to get some ideas of different terms that they would use to classify this particular article, because it seems like it would be similar to the types of articles that I'm interested in finding. So this is what the list looks like when I expand it. The mesh terms here include animals, child, dogs, family, female, humans, patient-centered care, and quality of health care. There in the middle, I've shown you when you click on one of those, it's going to give you a sub-menu. You can search it in PubMed, Mesh, or you can just add it to your search. So in this case, since I'm trying to find controlled vocabulary, I clicked on the Mesh term to see what they listed for patient-centered care. I'm not going to show you a screenshot for every single word that I'm searching Mesh for. That would just be boring. But I want to give you just one example here. I searched for dog in the mesh terms. What I was predominantly looking for was service dogs or something like that. When you conduct a search, it will give you the results If you get multiple results, you need to put a check mark in the box beside the item you want to add. Then you would click on the right hand side where the arrow is, just add to search, and in that box above it, it'll create your search as you go. Once you've completed everything, gotten all the components in your search that you want to look for, there's a button right below that red arrow, and you just click Search PubMed, and it'll generate a search for you. On this slide, I'm showing you the mesh term for autism. There's only one term that autism falls under for mesh. It is child development disorders, pervasive. In this case, unlike the previous slide, I'm not given a choice of what terms I want to use. It just points to one term that this falls under. So in this case, I don't have to choose anything more. I can simply hit the button on the right hand side that says Add to Search. Here's the result list for using the two mesh terms for my topic, autism and service dogs. The mesh terms are child development disorders, pervasive, and dogs. I only got 17 results from that search, and personally I thought I should find more, so I have some alternatives to choose from. I can add another database, see if something else has material in it, or I can modify my search terms. PubMed is nice in that on the right hand side there's a whole lot of information. It's not shown in this particular slide, but if you scroll down a little bit, it has related articles, articles that cite this particular article. It has ways for you to find more information without having to come up with another search. So I encourage you to explore the right hand side of PubMed when you get a results list, because you may find material in there that is spot on. It's exactly what you need. Use all the tools that you have available to you to find material. One thing that all databases have is a way to create an account for yourself. The advantage to doing this is that you can save material to what's called a folder, and when you come back, it'll always be there. One example I give students all the time is I have an account in EBSCO that I created about 20 years ago, and everything that I saved from 20 years ago is still in that folder. So they don't get rid of them, they don't empty them for you. Once you set it up, it's there. And it's nice because you can go in and you can do searches and just gather information that you are interested in, and you can go back to it later. You don't have to do a search again. You can also save your searches. So let's say you have a really good search and you want to run it again and again. You can save it in your folder or your account. You can set up alerts so that the database will automatically search that search strategy for you and email you with any new results. There's just a lot you can do when you set up an account in the different databases. Most of the databases locate the link to setting up an account in about the same place. In PubMed, it's in the upper right hand corner of the page. In CINAHL, it's in the upper right hand corner, but it's actually located a little bit towards the middle. Most of these have very short forms to fill out, and you get to choose your username, the email account you want to use, and your password. This slide shows information for setting up an account in PubMed is actually managed by the NCBI, the National Center for Biotechnology Information. If you look at the pool balls, you'll see 1, 2, and 3. So step 1, you sign in to NCBI. That is located in the upper right-hand corner. Then you'll see the screen on your left. You can sign in with a Google account or your National Institutes of Health login. If you don't have an account already set up, where the arrow is pointing towards the bottom, you will just set up a new account. So that's step 2. Step 3 is the little form that's on the right hand side. That's as long as it is. You choose your username, password, and the email account you want to use, and then you have to identify that you are a human, not a computer. So you put in the little CAPTCHA code and hit create account, and you have an account forever. What you would want to do once you have an account is each time you go into PubMed to search, go to the upper right hand corner and sign in. That way all of the activity that you do will be recorded and you can go back to it later. If you don't want to keep it, you can also go in and delete that activity. Now we're going to switch gears and look at the CINAHL database. So this is the front page of CINAHL. It's the top part anyway. You see 3 boxes. On the right of those empty boxes you see search a field, which is optional. So that's going to give you a list of the different fields that I mentioned earlier. The thing I want you to pay attention to in CINAHL is that the CINAHL headings, that's where we're going to search, is above those three boxes in the middle. Those are actually tabs even though they don't quite look like it. So what we're going to do is click on CINAHL headings and search for a few terms to build our search with. This is the interface for the CINAHL headings section of the database. Notice you just get one simple box. You type in whatever term you're interested in and hit browse. Notice there are 3 radio buttons below that search box. Be sure in any database you're in that you're looking at relevancy ranked listing. If you do term begins with, the only thing you're going to get is an alphabetical list, which is not very useful in finding alternative terms for whatever you've typed in. So relevancy ranked is what you want to look at. Once you click browse, you will get a list of terms that are used for autism, for example. And this shows the results list when we browsed for the word autism. If you notice below the green bar, the list starts with autism use colon and it gives you a term to use, which will be the first term in that list with a checkmark box. So this database says instead of using the word autism, use autistic disorder. So we'll click on that box and then add that term to our search. Another thing you can do in this list is if you click on the term that they're suggesting you use, you will get a tree view. Basically, it's the way that MESH is set up. It's a taxonomy of terms. And you can see where the autistic disorder falls within that tree. This can help you figure out if you're looking at autistic disorder for children, for adults, anything about that. It's not really a definition of the term, but it puts it in context. This slide shows the tree view of the term autistic disorder. I clicked on that term and got this screen. I wanted to see where autistic disorder was placed. 2 levels above the blue line is the same term we saw in PubMed, child development disorders, pervasive. When you click on a term, you put a check mark, you do get that blue highlight and it opens another menu. In that menu you can narrow down what aspect of autism. In this one there's choices such as diagnosis, complications, diet therapy, drug therapy, economics, education. There's a bunch of different subheadings that you can narrow your search to. Once you choose a term on the left hand side, you don't have to choose one there in the middle, but if you choose one at the left, then the green box on the right hand side you can simply click search database and you will generate a results list. Here's the results list that you'll see when you use CINAHL headings and then you click search database. Notice in the top box you'll have in parentheses MH and then in quotation marks autistic disorder. MH, as I mentioned at the beginning, stands for major heading, so that's a field, and you've got your term or your phrase in quotation marks autistic disorder. There are 8,892 results for autistic disorder in the field major headings. So this is the first part of my search. I'm going to go back into CINAHL headings and search for dogs, seeing if I can find service dogs. This slide shows the results of my CINAHL headings search for dogs. On the right hand side you see the list of options I'm given. I've chosen service animals to add to my search. I could choose dogs, and what I might do is once I see service animals with the autistic disorder, and if I see very few results, I could refine that search or go back and add dogs instead. So sometimes you have to play around with the search terms to make sure that you get exactly what you're looking for. This slide shows the results list for the major heading term service animals. Now, so far I've done 2 separate searches. The first one was for autistic disorder, and now this one is for service animals. For this search I got 246 results, and I want to combine those 2 searches I've already done to make it into one search, which is what I'll do in the next slide. This slide shows a combination of the 2 searches that I did. Right below the 3 search boxes is a term search history. If you click on that, it'll expand this table that you see in the middle of the slide. Notice that there are 3 searches in that table. You've got S1, S2, and S3. They're in reverse order. So the first one I did, which is on the bottom of the table, is major heading autistic disorder. If you go across that row, you can see the type of search you did, which was Boolean/phrase. Then you've got view results, view details, and edit. So you can do a lot in these tables. But I'm going to combine the first search for autistic disorder and the second search for service animals into a single search. The only thing you have to do is put a check mark beside each of the searches you want to combine. Notice at the top of the table you've got 3 gray boxes. Search with and, search with or, and delete searches. And then on the far right you have another one. So what I want to do is put a check mark beside S1 and a check mark beside S2, and then click the gray box search with and this will generate a search, as you see, the third search, S1 and S2. Now when you have this table expanded, it will add that search 3 to the top of the table, and your results are actually below that table. That can confuse you. So once you do this, you can collapse the table simply by clicking search history again, and it'll collapse that table. Or if you go to the right on the top row, you'll see view results. You can click on that and it'll bump you down into the screen. Okay, so here is the result list. We have 10 items from a combination of the terms autistic disorder and service dogs. Most likely what I would do at this point is go back into CINAHL headings and actually choose the term dogs and see what kind of results I got. But if you notice, the first result here is actually a very good title, and I would probably utilize this as sort of a foundation. I could click on the title itself and get into the full record. I can look at the subject terms. You can sort of see them right below. There's the title, then the publication information, and then there's the term subjects. In here what I notice is the term pet therapy in infancy and childhood. So that might be something that I want to explore more in CINAHL. So it's always good to look at your results. You can look at the subject terms and see what people have assigned to articles that by title alone indicate they might be useful. In all the databases that we have access to, there is at least some full text. CINAHL has a lot, and so does PubMed. What I'm going to show you in these next slides is where to find the full text and then how to cite the items. Some of the databases have tools to help you do that. This slide is one of the result sets we saw earlier. This is inside PubMed. So the first thing you want to do is choose the article you're interested in and click on the title so that you get into the full record. Okay, so from the list on the previous slide, I chose the first item, Animal-Assisted Intervention for Autism Spectrum Disorder. What you see on the left-hand side is the title. Above that, you've got the journal abbreviation, and that's one thing to know in PubMed. They use journal abbreviations, so you'll have to spell out the entire journal when you cite it for your papers. What's nice is if you just hover over that, it'll pop up the full journal title, so it's not like you have to guess. So there's the journal title, then the article title, then the author below that. Then you see a section for abstract. On the right-hand side of the screen, where I've circled it in red, there are 2 links. One says Springer link and one is blue, and it's for the Reed Health Sciences Library. Now what this is showing you is there are 2 sources where you can get the full text. Sometimes the links to like Springer link, or if it says CINAHL, when you click on it, it says, would you like to pay for this? All you want to do at that point is back up. Just hit back browse and go back into your record here and click on the Reed Health Sciences Library link. That one will take you into what LMU has access to. You just want to be aware that there are choices here, and one may end up where you're not getting anything. The second one might work. Here we have the CINAHL results. What's nice about CINAHL is if you look at the first example here, use of assistance and therapy dogs for children with autism, and it goes on. Below the title and the description of the article, you see a little PDF image. If we have full text within this particular database, you'll see that PDF full text image. There's another icon that shows up in this database, and it looks like a little box, and it says Find It At. If you click on that, it will search our other databases to see if one has full text. To go along with the same pattern we used in PubMed, what you want to do is click on the title, and you can get in there, and the PDF is still there, but there's also the citation tool. So in the next slide I'll show you that so you know how to access the citation assistance that is offered in CINAHL. Here's the full record of that article in our result list. I clicked on the title, and in the middle is the title and more information about the article itself. On the left hand side you see the link to PDF, but on the right hand side there are a list of tools, and sort of in the middle there you see one called Cite. If you click on that, it'll pop up a window and it shows you different citation styles and how they would look. The second one in that list is APA, and all you have to do is copy and paste it into your paper. Now you do want to be aware that these citation tools they're meant to cover everything. So there might be a few fixes you have to make in your paper itself. For example, sometimes the title of the article is in all caps, and that is not proper APA, so you'd need to modify that. Sometimes the journal title is not italicized, and you want it to be italicized. So while this gives you a guide, I'll say, you want to be sure and double check the formatting before you turn your papers in. Now I've reviewed two databases, PubMed and CINAHL, and how to search them using mesh headings or CINAHL headings. We talked about finding full text and using the citation tool. So you may be thinking, okay, I remember all of that, but now I don't remember how to get there. This next slide I'm going to show you is just a repeat of how to find the databases, and then the last slide will be contact information and a place where you can get more tutorials or more information on APA itself. As a recap, to find the library webpage, there are 3 different ways to do it. First is simply type in the URL, which is at the top of this slide, library.lmunet.edu. If you're coming in from the LMU homepage, on the left-hand side, click on Academics and then on Library. And if you're coming in through Pathway, at the top of the screen, there are tabs. Click on Academics and then Library, and once you open the library page, click on the term The Library Website. And what you'll land on is this Carnegie Vincent Library page. Again, to actually find the databases themselves, on the main library page, you click on the large button that says Databases. If you go in through the Reed Health Sciences Library, the link to databases is on the left-hand side. This is the closing slide. You can email me at any time for assistance. My email is tiffany.connor@lmunet.edu. I assist students via email all the time, so don't think it's an imposition. When you do email me, be sure and let me know what you're searching for and some of the context. When you email me with something like, I need research on autism disorder, I can give you thousands of things, but if you focus that on treatment or, like our example here, dogs and that sort of thing, I can refine that search for you, and what I'll do is send back a search string with some probable results, the number, so that you know you're doing the right thing. I have created a couple of more tutorials that are on my YouTube channel. The first one is a tutorial on APA. If there's everything you want to know about APA 6th edition, it's a long tutorial. It's very involved, very specific. I just touched on a few things to change on APA in this tutorial. So if you need more information, feel free to look at that tutorial. It's located in 2 places. It's on my YouTube channel, or you can go to the library webpage, and under the nursing guides, there's one called NAIL, Nursing and Information Literacy, and there are 3 tutorials on that page. One of them is APA, one of them is CINAHL, which is the 3rd link on this page, and one of them is about plagiarism. The tutorial on CINAHL is a lot more involved than you've gotten here today. It is also on my YouTube channel and linked from that library's nursing guides. If you need more assistance, if you want to review how to search some of the databases, there's also tutorials out there just on YouTube. If you simply search YouTube for how to search PubMed or whatnot, there are tons of training tutorials that different librarians have put together. They're at different schools. Some of them are very funny, some of them are very dry. It kind of depends on your learning style as to what you prefer, but there are a bunch of them out there. It's been a pleasure telling you about PubMed and CINAHL. I hope that this helps you do your research. If it just gets you started and you still need assistance, please feel free to email me at any time. I am always on email, and I'll be happy to respond.